What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here today for a classic charts and graphs video covering some NBA. Who are the biggest winners and losers of the NBA season so far? The All-Star break ends today. We are back to a full slate of games. Even though the All-Star break is not the true halfway point, we're actually about 75% of the way, or 2/3 of the way through the season. I figured this was a good chance to just kind of dive in and take a look at who is actually up since the summer, who is down the most since the summer, and just kind of talk through some players. So we're going to dive into market movers. Link in the description down below. Coupon codes, links, the whole 9 yards. You can get the first month for $1 if you want to try out your own charts and graphs. Without further ado, let's go ahead and just dive straight in. Let's look at the winners first, because quite frankly, there's not a ton. I mean, there's a decent amount. I shouldn't say that. It's just that the green numbers are not as big as the red numbers in terms of the ups and the downs. Top of the list, and there are a few things that we need to mention about some of these, some asterisks, if you will. Cam Thomas, high up. Now, his last sale was February 13th. That's a few days ago. That was coming off all his 40-point straight games in a row. Now that the rotation has kind of settled out post-trade, and this could change, but as of right now, he's their sixth man off the bench. He's not starting anymore. So I would expect this price to pull back down again. It's not going to go back to the $50 that it was at before, but it is also not going to stay at the $450. The other thing to note here, and this is going to be a trend, population report matters on these. Cam Thomas's is really low. You see Alfred Sengun third on that list. Absolutely good NBA player. Fun young forward on the Rockets. His PSA 10 is a pop 13. Right below that, we see Franz Wagner. Also having a tremendous season. Breakout star for the Orlando Magic. They're a pesky little team down there. They might sneak into the play-in. Same thing there, pop 12. Josh Giddey further down the list, also low population. So just kind of keep that in mind that everyone is digging through their dollar boxes right now, looking for Cam Thomas silvers to send in the PSA. That population is going to shoot up. Same with some of these other guys. That alone will bring prices down, even if they continue to play well. But this does go to show, if a random rookie really takes off in year 2 or year 3 out of nowhere, you could potentially have a massive profit because of just the lack of supply on the market in the PSA 10s. Got to put the money out there to grade it, so you're taking a risk, but the rewards can be huge or maybe you're just really good at tracking talent. Some other big winners. This is the next one, the Tatum Silver PSA 10 Prism is probably one of the only high-priced cards that actually held and went up a little bit. There's a couple others on here, but he is the main one that's kind of really holding this list together in terms of the upper crust. Most of the guys that are going for $8, $9, $1,000 or more all came down quite a bit. Tatum is having an MVP level season. The Celtics are one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league. They are right up there with the Bucks and the Nuggets. So it is nice to see his prices actually get rewarded for that level of play. But keep in mind, it took an MVP level season and the whole team playing extremely well. Some other notable names on this list, his running mate, Jaylen Brown. PSA 10 Silver is up 30% on the season. And I ran these back. I should have mentioned this earlier. Ran these back 180 days. That takes us back to basically the end of August, beginning of September. So we're seeing the run up to the season and the entire season. I wanted to catch some of that like summer off season flat time, including the run up and the run into the season so far. So that's why I went back that far. His stuff actually seems pretty reasonably priced. $500 for a PSA 10 Silver. His PSA 10 has only popped 253. That's just due to the fact that it's a 2016 Silver instead of a 2018 or 2019. Also on this list, Lauri Markkanen having a tremendous year with the Utah Jazz, my former Cleveland Cavalier. His stuff was at $50. It's now up to $150. That's a 200% increase on him. Mikal Bridges, his just recently took off with the trade. He had a big 40-point night right before the All-Star break. His stuff went from 60 to 125. I actually could see his stuff maybe potentially trending up a little bit more if he closes out this season well. He's a really good player. He's just never really had the opportunity to like own a team. Maybe he's not capable of that, but he is sure as hell going to get a chance to try. And I want no part of the Nets in the playoffs. I think they're actually going to be quite feisty to get out of there. Kristaps Porzingis back from the dead, actually having a pretty decent season with the Wizards. He's up 50%. Domantas Sabonis also having a tremendous season for the Kings. They're having a great year overall. We see Cameron Johnson, also part of that Nets deal. His stuff's up about 85% from 40 to $80. Just kind of scrolling through here, Nick Claxton also having a really good year. People say you can't make money on the big men in the NBA. His stuff was at $35. It's now up to $65. Not huge wins, but this is the life that we live in now. You're not making, these cards aren't going to $1,000 anymore like they used to. Josh Okogie, this is going to be a super random one, and I don't know what his role is going to be like once KD comes back. He's actually been playing really well for the Suns in the limited time that he's been getting some run here. I don't expect him to go to the moon, but once again, $10 to $30 there. Now, the thing that you notice is we are not very far down this list, and we are already at like $10 increases. I have this list showing 40 cards per page. So we get down to card number 40, Carson Edwards, it's up a whopping $3. When we flip this around and look at the losers, which we'll go ahead and do that now, we are going to see quite a different story. Just really quickly, if I scroll down to card number 40, it's down basically $90 as opposed to being up $4. So you can kind of see the difference there. So let's go to the top of this list. Number 1 on the list, Damian Lillard. Kind of surprised by this. He's actually having a pretty okay year. The Trailblazers are just kind of like off in la la land. I think a lot of this maybe had people thinking maybe he would get traded and his prices got a little inflated over the summer and they've pulled back down. Only pop 37 on this. This card is currently going for just under 2K in a PSA 10. That's a 40% drop, so percentage-wise, not huge, but a big dollar amount because it was so expensive. Good old Zion. Zion Silver PSA 10 was 1.6K back in the summer, is now down to $800. That's a 50% drop. Probably going to go lower. It was announced right before the All-Star break that he had a setback with his hamstring injury, and he is going to be out a little bit longer, probably at least another month, I would guess. And who really knows at this point? He just cannot seem to stay on the court. That is no real surprise there. Talent has never been a question. It's just, can he stay on the court? LaMelo Ball also down 50%. He was 1.4. He's down to 700 now. That's a 50% drop. He started the season hurt, didn't play for most of the year, and the Hornets are absolute garbage. Probably the worst team in the league, and also the worst situation in the league. That team's not getting better anytime soon. I still think his prices have a ways to go. One thing to note on his card is there is a print issue with that, so the PSA 10 pop tends to be a little bit lower than most. Draymond Green is next on that list. Then we have the Joker. This is kind of an interesting one. His PSA 10 silver over the summer was going for 3K. It's down to 2.4. Only a 20% drop, $600 on the dollar amount. He's having another MVP level season. Right now, he is the front runner for MVP, up there with Giannis, Embiid, and Tatum. But currently on the last ESPN straw poll that they do, where they ask likely voters, this just came out like a week ago, he was still number 1 for MVP. Whether he whether he wins it or not is yet to be seen, but the Nuggets are playing extremely well. They're the best team in the West by a mile. Suns with an asterisk there, depending on if they can actually all get on the court together. But he's having a great year, and his prices are actually down a little bit. Scrolling through this list, catching some other ones. Jalen Green obviously had a lot of hype coming into the season. He's down 60%. That Rockets team, they have a lot of interesting talent on there, but it's like watching a G League team play. It almost doesn't feel like real NBA basketball. Giannis is high on this list because the dollar amount is high. The percentage is only 3%. This is a silver PSA 10 Prism. Only 3 of these have sold over the last 180 days. The last one being in January. Like I said before, he's having another MVP level season. The Bucks are really, really good. This card was 15K and then dropped down to 14.5K. So not a huge drop there, though. If you do go back further than the summer, it was quite a bit more expensive than that. Luka down 20%. So once again, not a huge percentage drop, but a large dollar figure drop. 2.3K over the summer, down to just under 2K. I know that these were at the National, which the National was before this data set. This data set goes back to the end of August. The National is the end of July. At the end of July, you can relatively easily get a Luka Silver cash for 2K or slightly under. I think that's what Dustin paid for his. I was at the table when he traded / bought that card. I think that was around 2K value, maybe a little bit less. Anthony Edwards down 41%, having a great season, but his numbers were just a little overinflated. As we remember, a lot of this NBA season where we were still kind of finishing up market correction mode. So his card's down to $600. It's kind of an intriguing one. I really like Edwards. Embiid PSA 10 Prism, low pop on this one. This one's surprising as well. 1.3K down to 8, basically just under $900. That's a 30% drop. C above MVP level season, playing really, really well. Devin Booker, he's been hurt most of the year on and off. Trae Young down 56%. People, myself included, took an absolute bath on his stuff. I only own one Trae Young card now. It's the Red Mosaic. Whenever I go to sell that, I will take a bath on that card as well. I think the last comp on that was $250-ish. And I paid way more for it than that. Ja Morant down 30% from 1K, just over 1K to 755. Scrolling along here, Brandon Ingram down quite a bit, 50%. He's been hurt. He's been really hurt on and off most of the year. He finally seems to be back on the floor now. That's actually pretty reasonable for him at $220. That's a little bit of intriguing. Cade Cunningham had his entire season derailed. I'm actually pretty big on Cade Cunningham. I really liked him a lot. Part of the reason why I was big on 2021 NBA Wax was him and Evan Mobley. His stuff's down 27%. Ben Simmons, absolute train wreck, down 60%. Tyrese Maxey down 50%. Really good player, but he just doesn't get the shine as much behind Harden and Embiid. Jonathan Kuminga, spec play that just has not played out yet, down 50%. Scotty Barnes, looks like he stole the Rookie of the Year from Evan Mobley last year. He's been terrible this year, down 45%. Jamal Murray down 40%. Cat down 30%. Michael Porter Jr. down 65%. I remember when he was one of the biggest names in the hobby during the NBA bubble season in Orlando. His stuff was absolutely super high priced. He had some massive games, then had a season derailed. He's been okay this year. His PSA 10 Silver's down all the way to $81. That's actually pretty cheap. Donovan Mitchell having a fantastic year, would be almost an MVP level year in any other year. But he's just getting overshadowed by everybody else. He was at $500. His stuff got spiked up because of the trade rumors to the New York Knicks, and then he actually got traded to the Cavs. His price actually dropped a little bit. He's been playing really well, down to $330 on his silver PSA 10. Garland down 46%. He's having an outstanding year from $300 to $150. Actually, I think that's a very reasonable price on his PSA 10 silver. He's a guy that I could see. A lot of people probably don't see Garland play. The Cavs don't get a ton of national TV games this year. I'd be interested to see if he gets a price spike, if he really busts out in the NBA playoffs, if he has a pretty big game. RJ Barrett, I've never been a Barrett guy, down 70%. Colin Sexton down 73%. I thought he would get a ton of playing time with the Jazz. He just didn't. Desmond Bane down 50%. This one's a little surprising. I know he's been hurt, but he's really good. And he had a really strong start to the season. And then we have Cole Anthony here rounding out the list. I could go another page, but we'll just kind of hold off there. I wanted to flip over and look because I use silver prisms for this. And I know a lot of people like to complain about, it was silver prisms, garbage card, junk wax, printed to the moon, blah, 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 blah. Listen, whether you like it or not, for ultra modern NBA specifically, the silver prism still gives you a macro level look. Is it a perfect indicator? No. But it does give you a good idea on how prices are generally moving for a player across the board. If their silver prism is down about 30%, normally their optic hollow will be down about the same. Their select stuff their other, mainline stuff will be down about the same. Low pop, super low numbered stuff, autographs. Maybe it's not perfect comp for that stuff, but for the general collector, it's still a pretty good gauge for the overall market. Now, there are two players that don't fall into this category that we need to talk about. The first is Steph Curry. He does not have a Silver Prism rookie. We're looking at his 09 tops. This is his base PSA 10, his Chrome PSA 9, and his base PSA 9. All of these have pretty recent sales other than the PSA 10 base. Last one sold about 3 weeks ago. Generally speaking, his stuff is down about 30%. The PSA 10 is only down about 10%, but his other stuff is down 30%. Up and down year. He's looked great when he has played, but multiple injuries and multiple times spent on the IL. I believe he's supposed to get reevaluated in a week, and then he will be back, so we'll see what happens when that goes down. But Steph prices have taken a little bit of a hit. And then last but not least, we'll close out with everyone's most polarizing player, one Mr. LeBron James. I pulled up his base, his refractor, his tops white suit, and then just a couple of his more iconic cards. Once again, also going back 180 days on this one, takes you back to the summer. So we have the summer, the lead up to the season, the in-season, the scoring record, and then post-scoring record a little bit. His stuff has already started the price correct. It did get a little run up from the scoring record. The blue line here is his PSA 10 Topps Chrome base. You could see it started the summer off holding. The season started, it went down because the Lakers season's been an absolute disaster. Then about the first of the year when the scoring title talk picked up, his prices started picking up. You could see most of December, this card was going for about 5.8K all the way down to 5.7K. So like 5.5 to 5.8, maybe 6. Then it spiked up a little bit and then kind of leveled off at around 7K. And then there's some ups and downs here. And then you can see it starts climbing back up again to the record, 7K, 7K, 7.5K. One sale right around the record at 8.3. And then we see it come right back down again to 7K. So if you bought in this 5 to 6K window, you might have been able to actually quick flip this for a pretty decent amount. But generally speaking, and we'll need to see more time. We'll need to step away from it a little bit further. It's only been about a week or so to see how the price is truly correct as we move further and further away from the scoring title. Overall, though, macro level over the last 180, his stuff is down. The base Chrome PSA 10 was 8,500 in the summer. It's down to 7 even, maybe still heading down. We'll see. That's a 20% drop. His refractor has held up a little bit better. That was a little over 9K. It's at 9K, 4% drop. His tops base, I am not a fan of this card. I've just never liked the looks of this. I know it's classic, but never been a card for me. That's down about 10%. And then his non-rookie, but like iconic cards, the Chalk Toss, I do own one of these in a PSA 9. This card's down 30% in a PSA 10 from 3K to 2K. And then the other big one, which is, it's technically a Kobe card, but it's the LeBron guarding Kobe. This gets, the dual bump from the Kobe and LeBron factor, but it is also down about 40% from 4.6 to 2.85, about an $1,800 drop on that card. I actually would not mind one of those in a PSA 9. I am not a big Kobe guy, but I do really like the photo on that card and understand the significance of it. So a PSA 9 refractor on that. It's not top of my list, but it's on a list that I'm, if one comes across, and I could be one that I would be like more willing to trade into per se than straight just drop like 1K cash or whatever they're going for these days on it. So that's where the current NBA market sits. The intriguing thing for me is to see what happens between now and the start of the playoffs. In the past, we have seen some run-ups to the playoffs. I think it's a little overrated. I think more so what could potentially shift the prices is more the fact that football season is basically over now, and eyes are going to shift to the NBA and baseball. We are already seeing baseball is extremely warm right now. It's not like hot on fire, but baseball stuff is moving very easily and very quickly if you're priced appropriately. The best way I could probably describe this is baseball's super liquid. It's not seeing huge price spikes. Stuff is trending up, but in a more reasonable, slow pace. But baseball's very liquid. I got that PSA sub back with a bunch of baseball stuff in it, like sub $100 stuff, hell, sub $30, $40, $50 stuff. I have sold every card out of that sub that I want to sell. I'm probably going to hold the blue sparkle. J-Rod, everything else is sold from that, with the exception of the one Noel first Bowman, which I have priced kind of high because I'm in no hurry to move that. All the Topps Update base and Topps Holiday and all that stuff that I got back, I've sold every single card. I dropped 10 or 12 packages off at the post office on Tuesday that had built up while I was gone for a week in Florida to ship out for eBay. It was wild. All this stuff kept selling. I was selling that stuff like crazy. So baseball is very liquid right now. We will see if eyes turn back to the NBA. I think we're going to have a really good close to the season. NBA does kind of take the focus now. They get the Saturday night primetime game, the Sunday, matinee kind of like prime matchup game that they get. So they get the high value weekend slices of the TV market. And we'll see if that drives anything price wise along with the run up to the playoffs. And then the playoffs themselves should actually be a really good playoffs this year. The East, there are 4 really good teams in the East. There's one really good team in reality, and then a couple good teams on paper. We'll see what happens. The Suns, could be really good. They could be paper champions. The Clippers, on paper, are really good, but as we always know, the Clippers like the Clipper, and wild things happen, and they just signed Westbrook, so who the hell knows what could happen there. I think it's going to be fun to see the Kings back in the playoffs. Just a lot of good stuff going on in the NBA right now. I'm really excited for the close of this season and to get to the NBA playoffs. Big reason of that is because my Cavs are going to be poised to at least win a round and then maybe get feisty in the second round. It's going to be very interesting to see where they finish up and who they potentially match up with. That is all I have for you boys and girls today. We will catch you on the next one. Peace.